You want to know the number? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and welcome to our virtual forum for Glen Cove City candidates for City Council. My name is Regina Gouvenier, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset. As you know, the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. Our mission is to engage you, the voters, by giving all the candidates for a given office a public space to answer your questions in a structured way while maintaining civil discourse. Before we begin, I want to thank all the members of our league who teamed up to make these forums happen. Most important, I'd like to thank Judy Temkin Jacobson. She is the chair of Voter Services and works tirelessly to ensure that the needs of candidates and the public are met. Tonight, Judy will serve as our timer. Many of you have submitted questions through the advertised bit.lys, which will remain open throughout the forums. If you have not yet submitted a question, you may do so now. If you have not submitted a question, as I said, do it now. Our experienced vetters are Antonia Petrish and Helen Kotsky. As in-person forums, they will select the questions to forward to our moderator as the forum progresses. Our technical advisor is Judy Esterquist. We describe one piece of our mission as making democracy work. This includes all our voter services work, letting candidates speak directly to voters on issues that matter through forums like this, and through a variety of publications. We register voters at community events, and we do other things such as educating voters and advocating with legislators on issues involving voting and elections, but also on redistricting, natural resources, and healthcare. We only take positions on issues after studying them extensively. We hope you will consider joining the League, which you can do on our website, LWV of PWM, no spaces, please. Remember, the League of Women Voters is not for women only, so please join us. Our moderator for this evening will be Paula Blum, a member of the Board of Directors of Nassau County League of Women Voters. She does not live in the district represented by any of the candidates. She will now read our rules and procedures. We will then move on to opening statements and questions from the audience. Thank you. Paula?
Thank you, Regina. Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum for Glen Cove City Council candidates. As Regina noted, my name is Paula Blum. I am your moderator tonight. I do not live or vote in this district, and I want to emphasize the fact that League does not support or oppose any party or candidate. And now I'm going to read the rules that all of the candidates agreed to. The moderator will be a member of the League of Women Voters from outside the district. Candidates' opening statements will be given in alphabetical order. The same order will be for opening and closing statements. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement, but if there are many candidates, the moderator may limit the opening statement to 2 minutes, which is what we're going to do because we have 12 candidates. After all candidates have spoken, the moderator will open the meeting with questions from the audience, submitted electronically before and during the forum. Electronic addresses for questions will be publicized with the forum and available on the League website. The moderator will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for response may be reduced as long as it is the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general. Although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question that is addressed to a specific individual or to the group. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A League member will act as timekeeper. 1/2 minute from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will warn the speaker by a pre-arranged signal. When the time is up, the speaker will be allowed to finish that sentence. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline may result in a candidate being muted. Since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend. The use of props, charts, or visuals, and the display of campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with League policy, audio or visual or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if agreed to by all of the candidates present. The League maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on League-controlled electronic pages. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the League. And now we are going to begin the opening statements, which are going to be 2 minutes each. And we will begin with Mr. Capobianco. Please put on your cameras, candidates. Candidates, please unmute yourselves and put on your video. You may all do it.
It says that you stopped the video.
Yeah.
Stop the video for some of us. So I can't turn
No.
mine on.
I can't either.
Oh, here I am.
I
Thank
can't
you.
either.
I
All right.
cannot.
I've been disabled.
Will our tech department please get all of the
There we
videos
go.
on?
I'm on.
Danielle, I think they're just starting somewhere late, I think.
Okay. Mine just says your video, your host has stopped your video.
Okay, I believe everyone is on,
I'm not on.
except our timekeeper.
I am not on.
I'm not on.
Wait, we have Ms. Fugazy is not on.
All right, now I am.
I am still not on. I was
Yeah,
on.
One more, please.
Okay. Hold on a minute.
Uh,
There you go.
There
Thank
she-
you.
okay. I believe everyone is on now.
Now, Paul, if you could pause a minute, because I wasn't on, I couldn't show them the signs.
Right, okay.
Signs, 30 seconds left, and this will mean stop.
Stop on the red. Okay, and now we'll begin with Mr. Capobianco.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum and everyone who's taking the time to view this forum tonight and in the future. I would like to, in the beginning, I'd like to thank the Glen Cove PBA for its recent endorsement of me. We have a great police force and I am honored by the endorsement. For those who don't know me, I am a partner in a Garden City law firm. Prior to working as a lawyer, I worked for a large multinational accounting firm. I have served on various nonprofit boards such as the Glen Cove YMCA and the Nassau County Medical Center. As some of you may know, I served on the city council for 5 years. In 2014, I won a special election as a result of the death of a city council member. I am proud of my record as a city council member. I twice voted against piercing the state mandated tax cap. Prior to the current administration, we had secured 2 Moody upgrades while reducing the overall debt. We had balanced the budget and eliminated fiscal stress as recognized by the controller, Tom DiNapoli, all while keeping a firm hand on taxes. If elected, I will continue to closely monitor this use of city funds to ensure that your hard-earned dollars are spent wisely and not wasted. As a council person, we took a proactive approach in illegal housing, and I intend to continue vigorous code enforcement. I will do. Quality of life is very important for me and my family, and I want to stress that for everybody's family and all residents. I recognize that there's been a lot of development in the city of Glen Cove lately, and the master plan, which was formulated in 2009, is outdated. I believe we have to digest the current developments in the pipeline, and I intend to make that a priority. My time is up. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone,
Dr.
for tuning in.
Thank you, Mr. Capobianco. Dr. Lupenko. Please, yeah, okay.
I'm Councilwoman Dr. Eve Lupenko-Ferrante, and I thank the League of Women's Voters for hosting this educational event. I want to be your choice for City Council because my priority has always been your quality of life, health, happiness, and safety. No other agenda except to make Glen Cove the hometown that our children will want to live in when they're adults and a place where seniors can afford to stay. During the pandemic, when most of the world took a pause, I can assure you that I did not. I continued to help this city move forward, following through on Team Tanky's promises to improve Glen Cove's finances, infrastructure, and quality of life. By trade, I'm a medical doctor, which means that people come to me every day with their concerns and ask me for help. I'm expected to do this in a compassionate, well-educated, and well-thought-out manner. No drama, just dedication with unwavering ethics. I'll serve the council just as I do now. I'll work to identify and diagnose problems, weigh the risks and benefits, and design a plan to achieve the optimum outcome. My passion has always been community service, but I've also focused on improving our local businesses. In the past, I've served 2 appointed positions, the CDA and the Charter Review Commission. And while as your city councilwoman, I've served as liaisons to the Chamber of Commerce, where I've been vice president for several years, and to the Beautification Commission, and I founded the Do Good to Feel Good program. I continue to serve on the boards of the Glen Cove Arts Council, Glen Cove Cares, the Community Scholarship Fund, and my theater group. I'm also a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and was just invited to join the board of the Historical Museum. And I'm proud to be endorsed by the Glen Cove PBA, as well as LifeEd and LIUNA. Each council person has chosen their path for different reasons, but mine is simple: a continuation of what I've always done, serve my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg.
Good evening. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and moderators for hosting this event. I'm one of the 6 Republican candidates on Team Pansenbach running for City Council. My family moved to Glen Cove nearly 20 years ago, first as renters, and now for the past 18 years, homeowners on Leech Circle South. I'm an attorney with a specialty in international and domestic adoption, with my law practice being located nearby in Roslyn Harbor, close to home. I'm also the director of a not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to orphan children worldwide. Perhaps my biggest joy, besides my family, is helping to run the Glen Cove Junior Soccer program with a wonderful board of directors. As vice president of Glen Cove Junior Soccer, I've had the privilege of making sure this 100% volunteer organization is there for the children of Glen Cove to ensure they have a place to play. Youth recreation is the cornerstone of my platform. And in order to entice young families to move to Glen Cove, we must make sure and ensure that more programs and facilities are safe, and they're being improved to meet the needs of these new residents and current residents. I know as a councilman, I can work with all of the city agencies and initiate new ideas to improve and add recreation spaces for our youth. I'm also concerned with what appears to me as the downward spiral of quality of life here in Glen Cove. We now need to do more than ever before, beef up the code enforcement and enforce codes and laws that are already on the books. Finally, I understand that development is a tool for raising revenue, but I'm going to state on the record that Glen Cove needs to take a pause, a breath, whatever word you want to use, to ensure that Glen Cove does not become over-congested. We need to look at what we have right now in terms of the impact on our local police department, water, fire department, and schools, as well as traffic, and determine how to deal with this development issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins.
Hi, thank you, League of Voters and moderators and everyone for joining in. I believe that Glen Cove requires leadership that makes our residents a priority, and it's time for new voices in City Hall. I have a proven track record of making things happen. I'm an award-winning 25-year ad exec for top Fortune 500 companies, including Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Pfizer. I've managed a team of 20 people and campaign budgets in excess of $100 million down to the penny. As I have during my career, fiscal responsibility and innovation will be key to ensuring continued success and a prosperous future for our city. I'm also a co-founder of a lifestyle website for women, and I co-authored 2 humorous books on midlife musings. One was an Amazon bestseller. I'm a 3-generation Glen Cove Schools family. My 3 kids attend public schools. I'm actively involved in the PTA. I'm a former PTA president, treasurer. I sit on the school site committee, and I'm a liaison for children with special needs in special education. One of the things that I really was proud of while I was president of Gribben School was the replacement of the Gribben School playground. So I not only spearheaded that, I helped raise the funds for that. In addition, I wrote and won a nationwide essay contest that won several computers for the Gribben School. I've coached numerous sports teams, including soccer, basketball, cheer, all for our local youth sports. I'm a champion of women causes and a volunteer for several charitable organizations. I'm a top fundraiser for the National MS Society, a founding member of Cooking for a Cure to benefit the Diabetes Research Institute. I sit on the Ladies Ancient Order of the Hibernians. I'm a board member of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, and music and arts are a passion of mine. I'm a founding member of the North Shore Business Network and a UN member. One of my proudest accomplishments was doing car parades, in which I was honored by several Hometown Hero Awards, including News 12, Long Island Herald, and I was featured on the Wall Street Journal. I'll bring my business experience and fiscal management to help manage these budgets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Maccarone?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women's Voters and our moderators tonight, and as well to all the candidates for participating in such an important event. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident homeowner in the city of Glen Cove. I am a local attorney, practices in a local law firm, and I previously served on the city council for 2 years, from 2018 to 2000, at the close of 2019. During my time on the city council, it was a very a tough time in the city. Finances were actively on the decline, as well as the services to our city and to our residents becoming a grave concern to many in our city. During that time, I am proud to say that I had a starch record in advocating against overdevelopment and advocating for financial security. And my proudest accomplishment on the city council was that I found that in a world where we live, where people tend to see one side against the other side, I took it upon myself to be a fair and impartial, no matter who I was dealing with. I'm proud to say that I've served in many different roles in our community, as a coach, as a volunteer in many recreational programs within our city. I helped found the Glen Cove Spanish Soccer League at Pascucci Field. That was one of the first things I did when I became the city council, because I take it upon myself to, we live in a very diverse community, and I think that there's certain portions of the community that are often overlooked, and they are such an important part of our community and need to be included in everything that we do, and they need to be a concern across the board. As far as finances go, I think that the last couple of years have put our city in an extremely bad situation. I think that those are the first things that we need to address, as well as other things such as services being cut during such a tough time, at the same time as taxes and financial burdens being placed upon our residents. So I thank you for the opportunity to.
I'm sorry, is it Mr. Mancuso or Mancusi?
Mancusi with an I.
It is. Okay, thank you. Mr. Mancusi, please.
I'm Jack Mancusi. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting the forum, fellow participants, and the audience for tuning in. I'm a graduate of Glen Cove High School. After that, I went on to the State University of New York College at Oneonta, where I received a business degree. I was appointed to the Glen Cove Police Department, where I served 16 years as a police officer before I was promoted to the rank of sergeant. I spent 9 years as a supervisor in the Glen Cove Police Department. I had a great career, and I got to say that Glen Cove was an amazing place to work. Becoming a councilman will allow me to pay the city back. I feel like I owe the city a debt for providing me such a great career, and I plan to pay that back. As a police officer, I always stood up for the little guy, and I'll continue to do that. As a councilman, I'll stand up for the taxpayer. I won't raise taxes 8% one year, then the next year give you a 0% tax increase. That's not fiscal responsibility, that's fiscal chaos. I will not let taxpayers absorb the cost of extra apartments at RXR Garvey's Point. The developer has to pay their fair share. They shouldn't put the burden on the backs of taxpayers. I will not take actions that invite lawsuits, like erecting a fence to stop fishermen from accessing public land, which has been their legal right for over a century, and there's already case law on it. What I will do is I'll use my police and business skills to anticipate problems and solve them proactively. That will require realistic goals, problem-solving techniques, consensus building, and mutual respect. I'm the person for this job. My background, experience, personality, and get the job done attitude make me the perfect candidate for city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peebles.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening, and thank you for putting this forum together. I think it's incredibly valuable for everybody. So thank you to the participants. For those that don't know me, I am Barbara Bella-Peebles, and I would appreciate your vote. And I will share a little background with my history here. I enjoyed a fantastic corporate career for over 25 years with a Fortune 100 company. I received many awards for my leadership, for my community service, and for delivering results. That's key. So it paid off very nicely because I'm so happy that I've been able to have a house in Glen Cove for over 21 years. But putting all that aside, besides being proud of my family, the thing that's incredibly motivational to me and the thing I'm most proud of are my contributions when I served the city of Glen Cove as deputy mayor. For example, during my tenure, I contributed greatly to the city's financial recovery plan. It was well underway. The long dormant waterfront and Village Square eyesores, those projects were delivered. In addition, I brought in over 70 new businesses, hundreds of jobs, and the morale at City Hall was at an all-time high. The progress was with us, the buzz was with Glen Cove. It was really a great, great period. For now, my current role is clerk and treasurer in the village of Plandome. I have all the relevant skills and experience that can make a difference. I have no requirement for ramp up time. I know what the issues are, and I've always been engaged. I stayed very active in city business, attending meetings, speaking up for the people that I believe in, and advocating for the causes so important to everybody, all groups across our wonderful city. What I will focus on if I am elected is definitely continued business development and positive fiscal health of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perrone.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you, participants, for all putting the time in. And thank you, people listening, for inviting us into your homes. I'm John Perrone. I'm seeking re-election for my second term as your city councilor. My background is in business and insurance for over 40 years. I've resided in Glen Cove for over 35, a relative newcomer to many, but always considered Glen Cove my home. I've been involved in several civic organizations and youth programs. I've been a member of the planning board and the zoning board for over 30 years. The simple question is, why me? Well, those that know me and have dealt with me, my ability to communicate is one of my key factors. Anybody that's dealt with me knows I'm always there for an answer and always there for the question, and I always try to help. Being able to listen to a problem, I believe, is the way to solve the problem. I don't believe in agreeing to disagree. I believe there is always a solution. I weigh every situation with pros and cons to be able to render a decision that allows me to know it's right and just, using a common sense approach. Like I've always said, I've never cast a vote I've lost sleep over. Becoming a councilman is not a position I take lightly. It's one that brings with it the weight of assisting the mayor in the course our city takes and being able to see an end game that the city will enjoy, smile at the end, and say we're proud of Glen Cove. I'm also proud of our administration's legislations and ones that I was a part of. The rental registry, the foreclosure registry, the water sustainability of our water fund, and the increase in our water. Just being able to see these things and the cost-cutting measures we've made to see the city moving forward. If reelected, I'll continue to answer that call, to always be there to help, to answer the phone, and to always help to move Glen Cove forward. I'm asking for your vote and your support this November, but not only me, but the entire Tanky team. Thank you.
Thank you. I have an apology to make. This is supposed to be all alphabetical. Ms. Fugazy, I had you under Fugazy Scagliola, and therefore I have you out of order. So would you please go next?
Oh, sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Fugazy Scagliola. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for setting up tonight's forum. My husband, Tommy, and I both grew up in Glen Cove and made the decision to move back here to raise our family. We now have 4 children in the school district and are surrounded by our parents and extended family. I'm a financial writer, and I keep an office in the heart of downtown on Glen Street. I'm a board member on the Downtown Business Improvement District and president of the Glen Cove Education Foundation, which raises money for things that are outside of the school's budget. There's no question I am invested in the success of our city. 2 years ago, I saw an opportunity to help the city I love, and I ran for council. I came into office with ideas on how I felt I could help the city. However, COVID hit almost immediately after the election, and things that were a priority became secondary to more immediate needs. I pivoted quickly. I raised about $25,000 for local food pantries to help families in need. I also played a role in setting up 2 pop-up vaccination sites for our most vulnerable population and frontline workers. In addition, I raised almost $10,000 for the purchase of 2 new scoreboards at City Stadium, which will be installed soon. And I raised additional money for movies Under the Moonlight this summer at Morgan Park. This was all at no expense to the taxpayer. I'm proud to say I have worked to add new blood to our boards and agencies, and I played a role in getting turf to Glen Cove, lights strung in the downtown, street closers to the downtown for outdoor dining. As Glen Cove emerges in the new norm, there are issues that persist. We need to revamp our election process with longer terms and term limits. We need to look at illegal housing and code enforcement, which was and still is largely at a standstill with an eviction moratorium in place. And we need to update our codes and ordinances. We started this process, but it's a big undertaking and there's more to get done. I execute on things and I work hard every day for the people of Glen Cove. I'm asking for the opportunity to help make Glen Cove the best community it can be for your family and mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Silverman.
Good evening. I'm Marsha Silverman. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight. Many of you know me, but for those who don't, I moved to Glen Cove about 10 years ago. I'm married to a Glen Cove volunteer firefighter. I have an MBA in finance from NYU Stern Business School and have worked for over 30 years in the financial services industry, performing financial analytics and budgeting and planning. I'm currently in my 2nd term on the city council. I initially got involved in public service in order to bring transparency, accountability, and equal treatment and access to all at City Hall. While serving as your city council member, I have driven fiscally responsible budgeting and planning practices to protect taxpayer dollars. Some of those initiatives include revamping the city procurement policy to level the playing field so that companies can do business with Glen Cove, and it's less about who you know, but rather what you have to offer. I exposed and eliminated the practice of using one-shot revenues to plug budget gaps. I voted against piercing the tax cap 2 years in a row in 2019 and 2020. I've created transparency practices such as posting city council meeting minutes on the city website and holding monthly sit down with Silverman online forums to engage remotely with the public during COVID. I am running for re-election to build upon this foundation and to continue representing you. As I have said from the beginning, a vote for me is a vote for you, because I will always work on your behalf. Thank you, and I look forward to the conversation and all of the questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson-Mathews.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this forum. It's so unusually important. I'm Gaitley Stevenson-Mathews. I often like to say I'm not from Glen Cove, but I got here just as quickly as I could. I love Glen Cove. Jim and I moved here in 2007, purchased a home just half a block from Morgan Park. And within a week of moving here, even before we had unpacked, I was in the archive room of the library researching the history of Glen Cove. Before I knew it, I was going door to door researching the history of some of our founding families. I was helping my friend Cantor Gustavo with the North Shore Soup Kitchen, and I was helping at any number of events. And what I came to realize is that the rich history, what I came to realize is that while we have magnificent commodities in our beaches, in our parks, and in our history, the people of Glen Cove are the very greatest commodity we have here in the city of Glen Cove. And I am a fan of not selling people short. And so I threw my hat into the ring to run for office. And that was my impetus then, and that is my impetus now for standing up for the people of Glen Cove. Now, my approach to my job as a councilman, I have always been an independent thinker. I have always been an independent voice, and I am so proud of that. But I am also someone who is willing to work with whoever is around the table to find consensus and move things forward and do what is in the best interest of the people of Glen Cove. Now, my balanced approach to governing is reflected in my voting record. While I stood in opposition to the mayor and the majority on some issues, including voting against piercing the tax cap, voting against the 2021 tax increase, I very much supported the mayor and my colleagues on other issues, such as upgrades to our water wells. What I bring to the equation. At heart, I am an administrator. I know how to work with people, I know how to manage budgets, and I know how to get things done. I'm proud of my record of fiscal responsibility, of always standing up for our seniors, our veterans, and our families, and for always putting the best interests of the people of Glen Cove ahead of my own. That is the job of a councilman, and that is the job that I promised to continue to do if you re-elect me as your councilman. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roderick Watson. I want to first start out by thanking the League of Women Voters and the forum for tonight, and all the candidates. I want to say good luck. Thank you for participating. Roderick Watson. Who is Roderick Watson? Well, I'm a lifelong resident. I was born and raised in Glen Cove. I am a graduate of this actual fine school district. After, of course, I graduated, I attended Hofstra University, where I received my BA in sociology. And then I actually went to grad school and received my master's in social work. Since then, I've had a lifelong career in human services. Currently, I serve those that serve. I'm a medical social worker at the New York State Veterans Home in Jamaica, Queens. I've been there for about 12 to 13 years. And I am a first essential worker. It's been very tough. I ran for council. I was a councilman from 2016 to 2017. While I was on the council, my issues, of course, of concern were our tax base, housing development, fiscal responsibility, quality of life. I have a record, a very clear record of voting against some of the things that we talk about to this very day. While I was on that council from 2017 on, I was invited to a few boards throughout the city. Currently, I've been active in the community and have elevated on those boards. I'm actually the vice president of the Glen Cove Daycare Center. I'm vice president of the Alumni for Youth organization, which is a very unique organization because it actually was created by a group of African-American men who are all veterans. I am the only non-veteran on that organization. And again, I've elevated to the position of vice president. That organization primarily raises money for college graduates, for young Black men who want to go on to college that are actual graduates of Glen Cove and Glen Cove only. Also, I'm a founder and president of Glen Cove United Incorporated, which is an organization that collaborates.
Mr. Watson, the stop sign has been up for a bit.
Okay.
All right, please, candidates, watch Judy, because she's going to hold it up, but you really have to keep your eye on her. Okay. And now we'll start with the questions. The first question, incumbents, what have you accomplished in your last years in office? Newcomers, what do you hope to accomplish in office? And we're going to begin with Ms. Fugazy.
That's
if I pronounce right, Scagliola.
very good. Fugazy Scagliola. Look, as I said in my opening, it was a pretty crazy time. We got into office and then almost immediately COVID hit and we had to kind of change what we were looking at. But I am really proud of some of the things that we did. We purchased insurance. We started some new revenue streams with the foreclosure registry and the rental mortgage registry. I raised money for some really needed things like the food pantries in town. And I started work on some of the field stuff that is so important to our kids, right? So the scoreboards are there, they're waiting to be put in, which is really great. And I really worked hard on some of our boards, sort of shaking them up a little to get new blood on, different people on. In addition, I've worked on a number of issues just for the everyday resident that maybe doesn't impact everybody all at the same time, but my door was always open and I was happy to help where I could. I look forward to continuing on what I started, which was really moving the city forward. I'm happy about our work at the beaches and the parks, and I just feel good about the upgrading of amenities that we started. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg. Same question.
Yes, thank you. So the accomplishments that I hope to bring while in office are piggybacking on Councilwoman Danielle Fugazy-Scagliola's work that she's done so far, hopes to do City Stadium and other parks and recreational spots in Glen Cove. But foremost, I'm concerned being down there Saturday, Friday, Monday, and Wednesday every night and seeing the safety issues and concerns at City Stadium in particular. There are railroad ties that are falling apart. There are driveway spaces that needs safety concerns and new things to be placed there to protect the children. So if elected, I would want to work with all recreational resources and agencies in Glen Cove to immediately address those concerns. I understand that it's going to cost money, and not being a councilman yet, we need to find out where that money can come from, whether it's raising it or finding some procurement to secure these safety issues at some of our recreational spots.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins.
Hi, as I had mentioned, one of the things I want to focus on is fiscal responsibility and running the budget, certainly like it is a business. And in my past of 25 years, like I said, I've run businesses that are under the most highly scrutinized industries for finance and pharmaceutical in particular. And I think we really need to look everything line by line item and make sure that we're managing our revenue, not only expenditures, but our revenues. Another thing that I want to do is make it affordable for our youth and families here. I think it's really critical. They're the key to success of our city. I mean, children are our future, and we need to make it a better, thriving environment for all of us. As I'd mentioned in my statement, one of my passions, being on the board of directors previously of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, one of my passions is music and arts. And I would love to see Glen Cove be brought back to a vibrant city where we have restaurants, shops, musicians, art galleries, and other things to really help bring people into here and help bring up and boost our revenues. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante.
Thank you. Over the past year and 3 quarters, I've been really proud to be able to work with this team to improve our water system. We're working on increasing the number of water wells that we have for safe drinking water from 2 when we came in to 5. We hope to have a 6th one open soon. We are creating new revenue streams with the mortgage registry and the rental registry. We're trying to improve your quality of life. We've repaired the Morgan Park bathrooms, the Pebble Beach Pier, the Stanko Playground. I myself, I've kept up my work on several boards, and I've also been working to increase communication between different boards and between the boards in the city. As a group, we've also helped to bring a new website, a new phone system. We have a new ambulance, new fire trucks, new police cars. And I really want the opportunity to continue with our 5-year plan to bring upgrades to the golf course, to lower our debt service, to work to keep our seniors here. We want to educate our children. We want to help give them apprenticeship opportunities, because we want our children to come back here and be the next generation. And I look forward to continue to working towards that goal.
Thank you. Mr. Maccarone.
Yes. So the things that I would like to accomplish, if elected, first and foremost, deals with the downtown of the city of Glen Cove. My business and offices are located in downtown. And quite frankly, other than maybe the new Village Square and some recent upgrades over the last couple of years along School Street, the city of Glen Cove's downtown is essentially a ghost town. There's numerous empty storefronts, absentee landlords, and we need to find a way to bring in vibrant businesses and places that are going to attract not only our current residents, but new residents. As one of the younger people participating in this election, I can tell you that as a lifelong resident, many of my friends do no longer live in Glen Cove. They live in surrounding communities, mostly because of the vibrant businesses, amenities, and downtowns that those other surrounding communities offer, as opposed to the city of Glen Cove, which is greatly devoid of certain of those things. We talked about, other candidates have talked about our beaches, parks, and recreation facilities. As someone who literally grew up at those recreation facilities, was down there almost every day of the week, and obviously has spent many times at our parks and beaches, I can tell you that as a member of the city council, and what I've seen is we've always been reactive rather than proactive. We wait to see when something needs to be repaired, and now we're in a financial hole and we have to come up and find some type of money to repair this or to repair that. So those are certain things that I would address.
Mr. Mancusi?
Yes, at yesterday's mayoral forum, a question came up about decorum and manners at city council meetings. And what I would like to change is the decorum and the respect that comes from the dais. Currently, we have a city attorney. He's an appointed person. He's not elected, by the name of Greg Kalnitsky. And he regularly treats people with disrespect. During the COVID meetings, when he was on Zoom, he would get argumentative, interrupt the mayor. And you can see my background that I'm presenting right now. It's an American flag with the thin blue line. That's representative of the police and my background. Greg Kalnitsky found it appropriate to put a beach scene on his city council meeting. I thought that was very disrespectful to the people that he serves. Most recently, there was someone that rose at the city council meeting and was making a complaint against the city, and he was behaving very respectfully. Mr. Kalnitsky told him to sit down twice before he would even speak to him. So to me, he got treated like a dog, this person making a complaint by this city attorney. And that's not right. And one of the things I will do is make sure that that never, ever happens while I'm sitting up on the dais.
Thank you, Ms. Peoples.
Hi. The first thing that I would do is utilize my skill and ability to bring the whole group together, piggybacking slightly on some of the things that were said before. And I think that there's a great group of candidates running, and whoever winds up in the top 6 slots, I would like to support and work with and collaborate with all 6. And of course, the mayor, because nothing can be accomplished if we all don't get in the same boat together. We all obviously love Glen Cove, and we all have a lot of great ideas. So you need to be able to listen to your colleagues, collaborate together. And what I assure you, I will focus on fact-based decisions. And I believe that the city council not only should be an example, respectful and communicative and honest and clear, but I think they should be prepared and have answers at city council. So that's one thing that I would like to influence first. But my 3 main priorities, I've said before, fiscal health. You can't get anything accomplished without a really strong fiscal bottom line. And it carries over to all things and all projects that everybody feels about as far as improving our quality of life. And 2 things that fall into that would be developing businesses, welcoming businesses, and also taking a visit at some of the codes. Code enforcement must be beefed up for businesses, residents, and visitors. And I also think that that would help overall make a welcoming community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perrone.
I think this sums up is where are we going and where have we been? When we all took office just under 2 years ago, we came into office bright-eyed and ready to make change. We were coming out of some serious problems, and we brought forth a lot of change. Then in 2 months, we had to turn the city and close it, which we did. And we did it safely, we did it timely, and we did it and still kept the city running. While doing it, we enhanced our water supply, which is the lifeblood of the city. We finalized contracts that were left open-ended. We fixed the playgrounds. We fixed the beaches. We're fixing the roads. We finished the Morgan's Park bathrooms. We finalized the Garvey's Road project. We refurbished the ball field, refurbishing the ball fields. We repaired the city docks. And those are what you can see. What you can't see is we actually came up with a 5-year plan. We're showing a 5-year plan for capital improvements, so these problems aren't going to have to be reactive. We are going to be proactive. We joined the water cooperative, so we'll never have to buy water again. It's the things that we did and then reopen the city back again that I'm so proud of this group and this administration. And I think if you look around our city, you will absolutely see something happening everywhere. And that's not because we're sitting idly by. We're working every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman.
You know, I find it very interesting when I sit here and think about the role and responsibility of a council person. The City Council of Glen Cove is the legislative body. What that means is that we deal with the laws of Glen Cove. As I mentioned in my opening, I've been very proactive in proposing and enacting new legislation, new policies around our finances, improving our procurement policy, how we hire vendors with our questionnaires, our asset management policy, and I proposed vehicle use policy. For years, even before I was on the council, I advocated for long-term planning, and for the first time this year, we've enacted a 5-year capital budget. We still need to do many more policies in this area, including a 5-year or more operating budget, which will help in our financial discipline and create financial stability for the city this year and going forward into the future. While I appreciate all of the community activities that I've had, the city council role has afforded me, to me, that is not the role, and it's a benefit that I get to interact and help the community in various ways. Raising money and helping other community organizations is a great way to hear from the public and understand how we can do better as a city. But again, the city council role is legislative, and that's where I tend to focus and will continue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson-Mathews.
Yes, I am so very proud to serve as a liaison to the Senior Center. I will say, even through the midst of a pandemic, I am proud of my work working with the people at the Senior Center, working with Christine Rice. In the midst of the tragedy of the pandemic, we were able to make sure that people got vaccinated. We were able to connect with other organizations and nonprofits within the city to make sure people got food. And my other work having to do with seniors, also pushing for initiatives, for example, walkways in our city. You have noticed that we have better walkways. I have supported those legislation, and I think that makes quality of life so much better for our seniors. And I continue to push also for our loop bus to have a better route for that, so that again, that serves our seniors. As many people know, the cab fares have gone up. It's very difficult. So we have to get that moving and have to be doing that better. And I am proud of my relationship and working to move that forward. Also, as far as just looking after the taxpayers' dollars, as all know, I voted against piercing the tax cap. I voted against the tax increase. I just felt it was too much in the midst of a pandemic. And I felt it was important. And also when the Livingston project was put before me and it included an increase in density, I did not vote to send it forward because with density here in the city of Glen Cove, we have got to do better by making sure that we are strong on making sure that that is not out of control, and it certainly is out of control right now. So I am proud of that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
I, as a former councilman for Glen Cove, I was actually involved in literally the last phases of everything that was going on before these projects were being built. I was there for a lot of the last steps. So infrastructurally, I actually want to look into that going back into office if elected. One of the major issues that we had literally days before I left council was finding out that two of our water wells had issues and they were down. And of course, I couldn't do anything about that because it was literally 7 days or a week before I was supposed to leave my tenure as councilman. Now I hear that there's more things going on with the water wells and more infrastructure being put in place because we do have a lot of development that's actually been built and will actually have more stuff that's actually going to be built out as far as the water project, the Livingston project, and other things that are coming on. So I actually have worked with a mayor and administration that I actually did have to kind of fight to get in. As far as the downtown, being a lifelong resident, that downtown, if you've been here for pretty much your whole life, you know that there was not much activity down there from like 1989 all the way up until literally we have these new development that come down there, the piazza. So I would like to see the build that after COVID, and like to see some more projects come in to bring more people to the city of Glen Cove. First City Project has a person, Mr. Lapadula, and speaking to him in private, we talked about more cultural events, things that will generate people to the city of Glen Cove.
Stop sign is up, Mr. Watson. I'm sorry, but you have to finish whatever sentence you're on when you see it. Mr. Capobianco, please.
You're muted, Joe.
Mr. Capobianco, can you unmute yourself, please?
You hear me?
Now, yes.
Okay, I apologize. So basically, I'm a hybrid since I've been on the city council for 5 years and now I'm considered a challenger. I have a unique perspective. With respect to my incumbency, I pointed out in my opening what I was proud of, voting against the tax cap, balancing budget, 2 Moody upgrades. But now it's time to look forward. And some of my agenda items would be, just off the top of my head, is to make the building codes more consistent and more conducive to opening businesses in Glen Cove. For example, my dog walker had to apply for the planning board to open up a grooming shop on Forest Avenue, whereas 7-Eleven, a national chain, was able to claim that they could open up a 7-Eleven at the bottom of 4th Street and Cedar Swamp Road as a matter of right. It just makes no sense to me. If we want to attract businesses, we need to be more inviting and make our building codes more inviting and conducive to that. Illegal housing is a big, big problem. There has not been any prosecution of illegal housing. My mom used to live on Frost Pond Road and I go by her old house frequently. There's a number of illegal housing in that neighborhood. So these two things, as a lawyer, I think I'm well suited to attack. In addition,
thank you.
Oh, that's
Stop
it.
signing us up. Sorry.
I have more items.
Yes.
Remember, these
Joe,
questions, 1.5 minutes only.
Okay,
It's very
I apologize.
difficult. Yeah, that's okay. It's very difficult. I appreciate what you're going through. Okay, the next question. What commitments will you make about future proposed IDA and pilots? And for those who are watching, pilots are payments in lieu of taxes. And we're going to start with Mr. Greenberg.
In regard to pilots, I really and truly believe that bringing new development to Glen Cove will not only help for adding to revenue, adding new families, new people to Glen Cove, but we must make sure that if we are going to give a payment in lieu of taxes, that development does create sustainable and long-term jobs. I appreciate the fact that many pilots have created over the years short-term construction jobs. At the most recent planning board hearing, RXR brought many of the people who have worked on Garvey's Point to the meeting to show that these are people who've been receiving jobs and which is wonderful. But my understanding of payment in lieu of taxes and the IDA is to grant those benefits to developers that bring long sustainable jobs to Glen Cove going into the future, such as maybe a development on Seacliff Avenue of an Amazon, a Trader Joe's, something that will sustain jobs well into the future and produce real revenue in Glen Cove. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Jamie said. The whole point of the IDA is for job creation. I know that, RXR has changed their plans down at Garvey's Point. And I do want to say, I think the Garvey's Point area is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I take my dog down there all the time. I walk that point constantly. However, one of the points that was supposed to be in there in the original plan was that it was going to be a robust destination. There was going to be a 50,000 square foot office building there, which probably would have brought in 200 or so jobs. RXR has since deviated from that plan, and they want to put in more units. They have also scrapped the whole plans to make it a waterfront destination where there's no more retail, there's no more shops. I haven't heard peep about an amphitheater that was going to be down there. And then we're on the hook for paying for this ferry of $16.6 million with nothing there for people to visit. So I think we need to hold the IDA accountable. We need to revisit some of the checks and balances there, as well as all of our quasi-governmental boards, such as the zoning board and planning board. And we need to really stick to that and really put pure processes in play. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante.
This is an excellent question. Regarding pilots, every business has the right to apply for a pilot, but I think it's very important that it should just be for projects that are going to bring in new jobs, new revenue, that are positive for our overall finances and quality of life of the residents, the businesses, our environment. People have suggested in the past that we eliminate the Glen Cove IDA, but if we do that, then decisions would revert to the Nassau County IDA, and it won't necessarily be in the best interest of Glen Cove. So I think we should keep our IDA open. Perhaps we can have a tiered program for pilots. For example, maybe for like apartment buildings and condos, maybe as they increase in occupancy, then the financial amounts can be changed. And also add perhaps additional changes if they offer something extra like more workforce housing. So I think this is a great subject to discuss tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maccarone.
Yes, so many of the other candidates have already said that the point of a pilot is to create jobs. There was a report that was done, I want to say a couple of months ago, that was widespread, that literally indicated that the city of Glen Cove has the worst IDA by the numbers in all of Long Island. Other local Long Island municipalities who've undergone the same amount as far as dollar figures in construction have created, I believe the town of Babylon created somewhere along the lines of 9,000 sustainable jobs, where the city of Glen Cove projects created 250. We by far have the worst IDA and the worst record over the last 20 or 30 years with respect to pilots. Pilots aren't always bad things, but they need to be given in the right situations. They need to be given for the right purposes. The mayor on his previous elections, his last two elections, has campaigned on the fact of I am against pilots. They've ruined our city. We've given away our waterfront and we've hurt the citizens. He turns around and he just a couple of months ago, he granted a pilot as the head of the IDA for the Villa project. They had previously been approved for a project. They came back to amend the project. And oh, by the way, they were seeking pilots and the mayor led the charge in granting that. So they have to be done in a smart way, in a fiscally responsible way, and for the right reasons.
Thank you. Mr. Mancusi.
Yes, for the benefit of the audience, everybody on the screen understands what a pilot is, a payment in lieu of taxes. But simply put, what a pilot is it's a tax break for a developer. Your city gives them a tax break on what they are going to develop. So if their development would generally have to pay $500,000 a year in taxes, the IDA says, okay, you only have to pay us $250,000 for 10 years. So that a little bit of a simplification, but that's just to explain it. We have a lot of development online right now. RXR is going to be putting hundreds of new apartments in. The Livingston project is getting going. So my feeling is let's just put a pause on everything for now. Let all the development that's in the pipeline get going and let the IDA just kind of simmer down for a bit. The mayor, Tanky, is the head of the IDA. I think he should understand that. And if people want to develop land and they need an IDA to do it, well, then don't bring that project forward. Bring forward a project that will bring full tax revenues to Glen Cove. That's my feeling.
Thank you, Ms. Peebles.
I am of the belief of the glass is half full, and the word pilot is not necessarily universally a negative, and there's a lot of opportunity for not only the people that are the residents, but people that sit on the IDA board or the CDA board. I think that it's education and awareness, because there are so many projects that you can be proud of if in a competitive environment and you're attracting the right business that will have long-term benefits and jobs, it's very competitive. And when these developers come in, some of them, the margins are very, very thin, and you might lose an amazing recreational facility to Suffolk County, for example. So it is actually competitive. And I agree with the comments in general from all my previous candidates that are saying, they've got to be evaluated properly, but they also have to be held accountable. And I think some things have gone through too quickly. They haven't been evaluated properly. And then people change hands or administration changes hand. And then some of these developers are not held accountable. But there are some very proud projects: Panera, AMC, the dementia unit at the Regency, the reinstatement of a pilot for Stanley Park, saving hundreds and hundreds and keeping people with affordable housing at Stanley Park. So people have to remember there is a balance, and there's some really good projects. But again, I believe that it's more of an education and an awareness that building up some tax revenue is a very good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perrone.
Well, pilots are a double-edged sword. The fact is that they should be mutually beneficial to both the city and the developer. Creating jobs is one of the key factors in granting or looking at pilots. And the simple fact is that jobs are always going to be created with any development, whether they be short-term construction or long-term retail, which is not something that Glen Cove is getting a lot of, which is one of the reasons why that report that was rendered severely skewed the IDA work that we did, because most of our projects are residential projects that don't really create the same amount of jobs, and they cost even more money to build. So the issue with regard to the IDA revamping is that, yes, IDAs are a necessary evil, but they need to be reviewed. They need to be looked at in a very, very, very close scrutiny to make sure that they benefit all. The fact of the matter is that this administration gave out one pilot. Gave out a 10-year pilot, the shortest that I've ever heard of. And you know what? If it works, it was a short pilot. It wasn't the 40-year pilot. It was 10. Pilots are needed to bring development, and it has to be smart development and smart growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silverman.
First, I want to thank whoever submitted this question. The fact that the IDA and pilots are even a discussion amongst the community today is in large part because I have been concerned about this for years. And about 8 or 9 years ago, when I first got involved, I would sit in the second floor conference room at City Hall as the sole representative of the public in IDA meetings that were held for the public, but nobody even knew about them or would attend. I could go on for probably about an hour about IDAs and pilots and why I am significantly opposed to them in general, but we don't have time for that tonight. And you can go to my website and listen to the 2 podcasts on the Graft podcast that I've done about Glen Cove IDA and the pilots. A couple of things that I want to point out tonight is that there was a recent audit by the New York State Comptroller that audited the IDA from 2017 to 2019, which found grievous errors and mishandling of city funds, of just poor management of the pilots. So not only granting of pilots hurts our tax base, it hurts the school district's tax base, but not only that, when they were granted, and it was over the 2017 to 2019 period, half of which Ms. Peebles was the director of the IDA, it was totally mismanaged, and we forewent several hundreds of thousands of dollars during that short 2-year time period, and the IDA must be revamped, and the mayor should not be should no longer be the chair of that board. It should be an independent chair on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
As a former councilman, I was there for the financing and providing special financing as well as the pilots for the RXR project. Coming back and within the last few months, I actually talked at I talked at a public hearing regarding the possible pilot for the Livingston project. One of the things that I said at that public hearing before that actual report was public to people to read, that Councilwoman Silverman's talking about, was the very fact. I stated that at the end of the day, those that are on the IDA today will not be there 5, 10, 15, 20 years from the time that they grant those pilots. And that actually is an issue, because what happens is at the end of the day, we do not have any monitoring of the developer keeping their actual agreement with the city. And if they don't keep their agreement with the city, they tend to forget that they have to create certain long-term jobs. And guess what? The taxpayer actually is the one that takes the brunt of the hit. So therefore, I believe that we need to do more intervention and oversight on any pilot and no long-term pilots. Short-term, and it should definitely be looked at upon at least a 5-year span or 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Capobianco.
First off, I agree with Council Person Silverman that the mayor should not be the head of the IDA. I think that causes a number of innumerable conflicts of issue. Pilots, in my view, are not necessarily a dirty, evil word, but the project has to warrant it. And what I would view pilots on a case-to-case, project-by-project basis. For example, I don't think the villa should have been awarded any pilots, because I don't think there are going to be many jobs generated from that project. I spoke publicly at a planning board meeting with respect to RXR. They were given pilots based upon construction of an office building, based upon that location being a waterfront destination. That's no longer what RXR is. So that should be reevaluated, whether those pilots that RXR was granted should be rescinded or lessened and stuff like that. I just think that pilots do serve a purpose, but I think it's become apparent based upon the controller's report that Councilwoman Silverman pointed out could be fraught with misuse.
Thank you. Ms. Fugazy Scagliola.
Thank you. Look, a lot has already been said here about the pilots, so it's kind of hard to piggyback on all these things, but I will say this. Pilots in this city really became a dirty word when people started understanding the pilots of RXR because they were so deep. Never before had the city council had to vote on it, the school district, the library, all these taxing jurisdictions voted on that pilot because it was so big and out of the norm. If you look around all of Long Island, there were pilots given to stimulate businesses. I mean, I know Mr. Maccarone compared us to Babylon, but it's a much, much bigger situation. They're much, much more populous than Glen Cove. It's an apple and orange comparison. But that being said, it's about balance, right? Everything here is about balance. You have to look at it and look at each situation and make a determination of what makes sense here. It can't just be, oh, we're giving pilots, because as somebody said, it's your school district, it's your infrastructure, it's your frontline workers, it's your emergency workers. All of these things matter, and all of the building takes money. So you have to be careful about it. But it's like everything in this job. You have to really be a critical thinker and think it through before you do anything. Thank you.
Thank you. We've only covered 2 questions so far, and it is getting.
And I didn't get to answer this question.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, I do apologize, Mr. Stevenson Gaitley.
Okay, thank you, Stevenson-Mathews.
I got all flustered. Sorry.
Here's the thing with pilots. It's just too much and too long. Too much and too long. That is where we get in trouble with our pilots. As most know, I was very vocal about the Livingston project. It did not create jobs, permanent jobs. Yes, jobs for people in building it, but not permanent jobs. And in fact, it created about the same number of jobs that were eliminated when they took down the buildings. Our pilots should generate jobs. That said, I am not anti-pilots. Pilots can be a good thing. I am not about let's just put a hold, let's not permit them anymore, let's abolish it, because we have got such a challenge with our seniors and we have got a challenge with affordable housing. And if there is an opportunity that we can use a pilot to give more opportunities for senior housing or people just starting off to make it more affordable, I actually believe that we have to look at that. So I am not about shut it down, but I am very much about that we have to be watchdogs to make sure that we are making sure those pilots are not too long and that they are not these incredible 40-year pilots that are just killing us. You know, the Avalon just came back on, and that's making a difference in our budget right now, because now they are having to pay the standard fee. Those pilots have just been too much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. All right, the next question, and I'm going to ask you all to try to limit it to 1 minute if possible, so that we can get more questions in. What specific actions will you take to ensure council meetings proceed in a more civil and productive way that allows all voices to be heard? And we'll begin with Ms. Jenkins.
Hi. One of the things that sort of made me a little bit crazy the last couple of meetings is the introduction of something new at the last minute at a city council meeting. As someone who managed a team, and a team where I considered myself the hub of a wheel with numerous spokes. So even though my team was 20, 25 people at time, I had to work with all different agencies throughout my agency. But if somebody handed me something last minute as a city council meeting, that's just an inefficient process. There are pre-council meetings that are there for a reason, and they should be brought up. If not, there's email, there's communication, there's transparency. Everybody should be told of something with enough notification that they can research it and do their job and not have to table a vote for the next vote or be sitting there waiting, expecting to vote on something. And that's about efficiency. And I bring that process to City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante.
This has been an issue for many years, that we want to have our public have a freedom to speak. They should be able to bring questions to the council. I want to be an advocate for free speech, and to give everyone the opportunity to speak. And a lot of the decorum that is expected at meetings should be taken upon the persons themselves who are speaking. I will always act professionally, ethically, and will treat everyone with the full respect. There should be fair rules in the council. We might have to start enforcing them a bit more. Like we may have to start with a timer and ask people to sit down after a certain amount of time. But I think that during COVID, when we were online, we probably had sometimes fewer viewers than when we were in the council. And I'd like to see that change so we have more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancusi. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Maccarone.
So as a former member, I understand that obviously there are issues, obviously with the quorum. It's one of those things that rules need to be set in place and they need to be stuck, that you need to stick with them. It can't be, one person's because they refuse to sit down or because they don't think the rules apply to them, that we're just going to let it go. It needs to be a clear set of rules, whether they need to be posted or set out similar to in a way that this forum has been, the rules were established at the very beginning. Because what you have is people who are either being silenced and treated with disrespect, which should never happen, or you have people who get up and hog the mic, and the city council, rather than getting to certain issues that need to get to or getting to 10 other residents that have issues, you end up spending a half hour on a single issue with a single resident, which they have a right to voice their opinion, but it needs to be done in the right way. But I think this also extends a little bit beyond just city council meetings. I think the issue extends. So.
All right, thank you. Ms. Peebles.
Okay. Yes, I've been witness. As I said, I stay engaged. I go to many, many meetings, and I have witnessed some unfortunate behavior. I do think that the leadership has to set an example and a tone. And as I mentioned before, that will get more and more people able and willing to attend meetings and speak up. But what I have observed in the last few years in particular is a sense of frustration. Many, many people come to the meeting because they've gotten no call back. They have no one to speak to, and they get half answers. And that continues when they come to the meeting. I'm not making excuses for the way that they behave. It's unacceptable, but I'm thinking that if the city council and the mayor are prepared and responsive, it will reduce the level of frustration. And I think that the council people, certainly set the tone with each other. I feel that there's been no issues with that, but it's like so frustrating when I go to meetings and it does seem like there's no preparation. People are surprised what's on the agenda, and it's always with these half answers and people get annoyed. So that can help improve things, be prepared.
Ms. Silverman. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Perrone.
I think you also missed Mr. Mancusi, but he can go after, because he can go after Maccarone. But
oh goodness,
in a word, since it's just basically mutual respect. I mean, someone gets up if someone has the nerve to get up and speak at a pulpit and voice an opinion, they should be treated with the respect of that question. And the question should be given right to the lead or the mayor or the chairman. And with regard to the bantering that happens in City Hall, even within the people in City Hall, it should stop. With regard to the agenda that comes at the last minute, things get added. I don't think anyone on this hearing right now will disagree that things get added at the last minute. And those are usually the only things that we have to have a conversation with. But I think the answer to it is mutual respect. That's all.
Thank you. And Mr. Mancusi?
My thoughts align almost exactly with Mr. Maccarone's, so I won't repeat them. I believe some rules and a little bit of enforcement will take care of a lot of the problems. To me, what I see as the most major problem is the tolerance by Mayor Tenke of personal attacks. he allows people to come up to the podium and go on well over the time limit to personally attack other citizens. And it would be an easy task for him to put a stop to that, but he seems to not want to get involved. So if you ask me, leadership comes from the top. Let Mayor Tenke or next year, Pam Panzenbeck lead by example. When Pam's up on the dais, when Pam's the mayor of Glen Cove, she won't put up with personal attacks. I guarantee you she'll put a stop to it.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman?
You know, a lot of people have spoken about respect, and I think that's the bottom line. And it goes two ways, from the public and from the board. You know, government is for the people and by the people. The public must be involved. It's their government for them. So we as a board have to have the empathy that when they come up and they have the courage to speak out, that we should listen and listen fully and carefully, to have the respect that they are coming to us with their concerns and issues, and treat them that we serve them, because that's what we are elected to do as public servants. So I think I agree with a lot of what's been said about setting rules and maintaining those, and continuing that will help as well. But really having the respect and listening to each other and empathy towards the public will improve the atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson-Mathews.
You know, I'm going to steal a line from my friend Chuck Levine, who always says, and I so believe this, that government should be an extension of our families. And I don't know about your families, but my family sometimes is just a little tricky. That said, I will, as people step up to the podium, I do think it's unusually important that there is a decorum, that there are guidelines. I'm a big fan of that. I think that helps. I think it helps when you explain exactly how it's going to happen. I know when I go to any number of civic organizations, different ones run different ways. And I think it's helpful for the public to explain how that is done. Some people are quite savvy and that kind of thing, but I do believe give people 3 minutes, keep them to the 3 minutes, you know, let them come back when they get an opportunity. I have never been a fan of the loudest wins. That is not democracy. That is not what we are about. That is not how it should be done, but it should be absolutely in a controlled fashion, in a thoughtful way, making sure that every voice is heard. I'm such a fan of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watson.
The problem that I find when it comes to the order of what's going on is, as a former councilman, what we adopted, and I think Ms. Peebles and Mr. Capobianco might have forgotten, and I'll remind them, when we all served together under Reggie Spinello, we verbally adopted our rules of decorum. And those rules of decorum have gone out the window at some point. And at that time, we stated that even though we didn't vote to adopt them, we still would keep them, we would keep them in safeguards as far as verbally. And you address the mayor from the podium, and the council person and the city attorney have to ask permission to speak to that person that's at the podium. You just don't say anything to them and go over the mayor. That's how you keep those rules of decorum. And that's what we did when I was there in 2016 and 17.
Thank you. Mr. Capobianco.
So I do remember those rules, Rod, and the problem is, you know, rules are written, but they must be enforced. I have a slightly different take on this. I love Glen Cover's passion. There are some regulars that come to the city council meetings every meeting. And I think they have a right to be heard. I think they have a right to be heard on all the issues passionately. I think the issue is that the meetings have to be controlled. I was the subject of many bows and arrows and slings and arrows when I was on the council person. I didn't mind that as long as they didn't cross the line. And I think that the issue is that the mayor, as chairman of the board, has to control the meeting. It's his meeting, and he has the obligation and the power of the gavel to control that meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Fugazy Scagliola.
So prior prior to even being on council, I've witnessed these meetings, and what Mr. Capobianco said is true in that there's always people that are getting up and they're fiery and they, want their voices heard, and they're either upset or they want to make their point. I'm really okay with it to a certain extent, but there is a mutual respect, as Mr. Perrone said, that just has to happen. I treat everybody with respect, and I expect that in return. It's okay, I'll debate you on something if you want to talk about something, but there is a certain level of respect that has to be maintained. I don't find that people in the audience always give that respect. I do think for the most part, the people on the dais have been, or the council people on the dais have been respectful of the audience. And look, we want to hear. One thing I want to clarify, if somebody calls us, we're pretty, we answer. So they don't have to wait till council to meet with us.
Thank you. Okay. Do you see any role for yourself in addressing climate change as a council member? Please be specific. It also includes what green initiatives have you taken? If you feel you can only do with the 1 minute in the first part, just do the first part. Okay. We'll start with Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante.
This discussion about climate change is really a passion for me. I have a medical and a scientific background, and being a physician, the most important thing to me is always people's health, safety, and happiness. And every decision that we make should be made with respect towards the health and welfare of our entire population and the environment. And we've been working very strongly to improve the number of water wells that we have open, to cleaning up our water, to preventing that 1,4-dioxane plume from reaching us. We have to be respectful of the environment. And we know that in the last couple of years, we've had some crazy storms, and it's really been able to show us where we have some problems with our infrastructure, so we can work towards now mitigating and helping to minimize future problems with the environment, but we need to be respectful of it.
Thank you. Mr. Maccarone.
Well, as far as climate change goes, obviously that's not just a local issue, that's a global issue. I'm no expert or have any type of scientific background, but I, as an attorney, I tend to deal in facts. And the facts show that changes certainly need to be made. I think that the city of Glen Cove has taken some certain steps towards helping in that department, as far as installing over the last couple of years some electrical carports for charging in the garage. But I think it needs to go far beyond that. I think if you look at some of the damage that our coastal area, whether it be Morgan's Park, the fishing piers down at Peebles, or most important, or not most importantly, but most recently and on a much larger scale, our golf course, the issues that they've had as a result of these major storms, which necessarily aren't even major storms by our standards, just they seem to be getting worse, doing a lot more damage. I think this is something that we need to address. We need to address not only on a
thank you. Mr. Mancusi?
Yeah, I think green initiatives are important. Something as simple as changing over to LED lights. That's a great idea because that saves money in the long run. LED lights are cheaper to use, so they pay for themselves over time. The city can do things like climate control in business, in their buildings, trying to reduce the amount of energy they use to either heat or cool without sacrificing too much comfort. The one thing that I believe would not be appropriate is to do something that puts costs on the backs of the taxpayer. Like, let's have a fleet of electric vehicles in the city because, hey, we're green. But you know what? If it's going to cost more money, I'm not in favor of that. I'd rather use traditional vehicles, and I think that's the way to go. If electric vehicles become a neutral expense, then I'd be all in favor for them. But if it's gonna cost the taxpayer, I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you. Ms. Peebles?
I appreciate and second what Jack Mancusi just said, but also I would say that I don't have much more to add, except that you really need to be able to get best practices for all green efforts. There's no reason why the city of Glen Cove would be on their own trying to address these issues. There are so many resources out there. There's so many opportunities to take baby steps in creating a more green environment, increasing awareness, holding developers accountable. All those wonderful things are easily available. And so instead of, kind of trying to reinvent those efforts on our own, I would strongly support going to the experts, and they can get us through those processes. I'm proud that when I was in office, we did initiate the green effort with the electric car chargers and converting to LED lighting. And there were some other things on the board that were delivered, after that, but I support it. But I do think you need experts to help make it as efficient as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Perrone?
Well, I'm gonna keep it real short. This isn't the Glen Cove problem, it's a global problem. But Glen Cove is just one tiny cog in the problem. And every step that we take to solve something in the environment to assist in helping climate change helps the global problem. The LED lights help, the electric vehicles help, complete streets help, because we're gonna have more bike paths and more walking paths. Our water contamination, we've corrected that, putting in the air strippers. We are seeing a lot of flooding. In my industry, in the insurance industry, we're seeing it where the flood insurance lines are being redrawn and new places are becoming flooded that never got flooded before. I think that we all are going to be in agreement here is that we all have to pull together to make sure the world is safe for our grandchildren and their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman?
Yeah, there's some initiatives that we've taken already in this city, like the electric cars, chargers, some solar panels, the LED lights downtown. Those are just a start. Where we can really make change is through building codes and our development. When we develop and overdevelop and we have more cement and bricks, the runoff from these storms has nowhere to go. We're taking away our trees, the roots that absorb it, the grass, our wetlands. We're taking away the natural protections that we have for ourselves. And we just had this Ida storm where we had over 9 inches of rain in less than 24 hours. The water had nowhere to go. So it went into houses and caused immense damage. We need to start with our building codes, not overdevelopment. We could be more stringent and require developers to put green initiatives without lightweight construction, the lightweight truss construction that is more dangerous and more susceptible to some of these global warming issues that we're seeing. So I think we can do a lot more in this city, although we've made some baby steps already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevenson-Mathews?
Yes, I just wanted to say we all have to be involved in lessening our carbon footprint. That just has to happen, and it is a national challenge, but certainly we have to do that here in Glen Cove. I would say certainly a step in the right direction with our LED lights, with our charging stations. The other things that we have to do, we have to continue and upgrade and look at our current buildings, our current structures, and also look at future construction to make sure that we are making the very best choice and using energy efficient construction and things that also, again, whatever we can do to lessen the carbon footprint, we've got to make sure that we build those into our codes so that that construction is done well, not only with future construction, but also looking at our buildings now. The other thing that is so very important, we have got to make our city a more walkable city and a city where we can ride bicycles and where we can also have better public transportation. I know I keep coming back to this loop bus, but that loop bus should run and run well, and it should be a point of pride that we take public transportation. We can easily, if we can work and get that loop bus running in a correct fashion, then we can get people systematically getting on the bus, getting to the train station, getting to wherever we need to go. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
As someone that has been on the council when we voted on solar panels and electric charge stations, I am very much in support of that. Even in my personal life, having my own panels at my own home. I believe the city definitely is moving in a direction and can be a leader in that with future developments, like everyone else has said. Even if we can find just little pockets of land that might not be of use, that we can actually possibly have some solar panel farms, things of that nature that can actually generate money back to the city. So to see that we didn't at one point have much going on, to actually knowing now that we have a FEMA liaison and Mr. Deputy Chief Ortiz to show us that yes, climate change is real and we definitely have to do something about together, no matter who gets in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Capobianco.
So I was involved in installing, when I was on the city council, with respect to the electric chargers in the garage, the LED lights and solar panel. I think we need to do a lot more of that. That is just the beginning. I also think we need to, my neighbor has solar panels on his roof. I think we need to encourage that more. I think we need to perhaps give even local assistance in getting people to do solar panels on their roof. With these two storms that we had, I was not able to get off my block. I could not go to work on 2 days, these two separate forms. So
okay, I think we have Mr. Capobianco's computer is frozen. I hate to do it, but Ms. Fugazy, Scagliola, please.
Yeah, just following up on what, Joe, are you back?
Are we back, Mr. Capobianco?
Yeah, I don't know where you lost me, but that was the most brilliant answer of the night.
We missed it.
I know, all of it?
Oh, we lost.
We
were stuck in the storm.
Now Judy's doing 30 seconds. I should get more than 30 seconds.
We got your 30 seconds. So
you were just
right?
Well, I think, look, all politics is local. I think we could make a difference in affecting the carbon footprint. I think the electric chargers, the LED lights and solars are a start. We have a lot more to go, and I think we need to encourage solar paneling for our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Ms. Fugazy, Scagliola, please.
So as some people alluded to, Ida ripped through our city, and I mean, the flooding was just unbelievable. It's clear that we have more dangerous storms and more frequently, and we have to take them serious. As I said in my opening, we have to update our codes to make sure we're ready for the future. But that being said, I am happy to say we have made some steps towards working on this problem. I agree there's more work, but we have worked on some erosion issues. You could see we built up at Peebles. We have installed LED lights and we're saving about $100,000 with those. And we did, just through a grant, get ready to hire, we did actually just hire an environmental engineer to help us look at the resiliency we have with flooding, because we do take these problems seriously. And we're looking at building a greenhouse. We just hired somebody to look at building a greenhouse at Big Ralph Park. So all of these initiatives are important, and we certainly can make a difference for the environment, and we need to work that way.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you. Just briefly, something that's come up time and time again, not only recently, but years past, is whether or not recyclable items coming from homes are being mixed with regular trash. And I think it's important for any administration, hopefully this administration, to debunk these rumors that it's important to continue to recycle, that it begins at the home, and that these products are being sent properly to where they belong and being recycled. I just would hope that we can get to the residents that it is important and that these steps, these baby steps, begin at home. I know I do it, I know many residents do it, but I think we need some reassurance from the administration, whomever that is, that it's worthwhile and it's a good start to helping the environment.
Thank you. And Ms. Jenkins.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what everybody else said about LED lights, bringing in more solar, certainly fortifying our beaches, making sure that, especially down at Peebles Beach, you know, we had new sand that was installed, and I know a couple of days later, all that new sand just got washed away. So we need to ensure that we could do that, because it's not only, you know, ruining our beaches, but it's a cost for us as a taxpayer. One of the items I want to go back, just one of my passion points about the environment is I'm an avid hiker, and Wellman is one of our most charming assets here in Glen Cove. However, it's laden with ticks. Ticks bring about all sorts of diseases. It's a problem throughout the island. And one of the programs I want to bring to Wellman in particular is a bobtail white program where these natural birds basically eat ticks. I also wanted to partner with Volunteers for Wildlife because they rescue and rehabilitate opossums. Possums are tick eaters. Possums are good. So if we can get that and bring that in, I think more people using outdoor space as well as biking and things like that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think this is going to be the last question before your closing statements. How will you work to help the homeless and underserved? Please be specific about which resources you think are most effective and how to fund them, and how to reduce the number of families becoming homeless each year. And we'll start with Mr. Maccarone.
So, well, the city of Glen Cove actually, in my view, does a lot more than our surrounding communities as far as helping the homeless and the families in need. I think that the problem is only going to get worse as a result of COVID and this residential moratorium that's going on. For those that aren't aware, a residential moratorium on evictions is currently in place, preventing people from being evicted. Some people who haven't paid rent in over a year, and once that goes away, which right now is scheduled for January of next year, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more homeless people. So it's something that we need to direly address and come up with funds, whether it be fundraising, what it is, because it is going to be a severe problem. And I think that's where we're really going to see the financial effect on our economy as a result of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancusi?
The city of Glen Cove is a very small governmental unit in terms of size and with respect to dealing with the homeless problem. So what we're doing right now is we're using public-private partnerships. We have charity organizations, the church, and they're taking in homeless people. They established an overnight center for them where they could be safe. So the city's role is more, I believe, to educate the public and to encourage volunteerism and charity to help the people, because the government of Glen Cove is just too small to fund housing for the homeless.
Thank you. Ms. Peebles?
I think the problem needs to be really get your arms around it. You can't fix something unless you understand the statistics and so forth. So one of the wonderful things about living in Glen Cove is, yes, indeed, there's a lot of charitable organizations that are really doing a wonderful job. And there's a lot of us on this panel right now that quietly support behind the scenes and try to help. But you have to get your arms around it to really understand the full nature and the scope of how bad the problem is, to be prepared, especially to have a plan in the event that this problem even does get larger. It's a major quality of life issue, and it's very important to be able to identify funds to be able to plan and help the underserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perrone?
The homeless issue is not a newfound phenomenon in our city. It's been around. It's been around for a while, and it's a problem that we all see and all witness. Simple fact is, when COVID did hit, that number did go down, and maybe in part it's because there were less homeless coming to Glen Cove, or maybe in part it was just they were finding safe housing someplace. This city works very hard with, as Mr. Mancusi said, a public-private partnership, and working with the churches, organizations, and other, not-for-profit groups to not only help homeless find shelter, but also feed people and make sure that they get what they need. We do a lot. We do and can and should be able to do more. And as the size city that we are, I think that what we will do is work toward helping everyone as we have done in the past. It's not a budgeted item. Usually never has been, but it seems like we always work together to pull together to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Silverman.
Thank you. I can't think of something more heartbreaking than homelessness. Imagine, we're all here on a computer at our homes. Imagine if you're out on the street and you have nowhere to go to put your head down at night, which is why we who have resources at our fingertips need to do more for those people who don't have, who are less fortunate. With that said, people have said we do some programs in Glen Cove with the churches, with various organizations, and that's great. It is expensive to run these, and we have to balance the cost with what we can provide, but really understanding and providing the services that are needed, whether it's mental health, whether it's job job assistance to get people out there, or just assistance finding home housing. We do have partners in the county who have larger programs than just in Glen Cove, and I have worked with them in the past and will continue to work with them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson-Mathews.
As I understand, the question was, how will you work to help the homeless and the underserved?
Yes.
As some people know, I am a founding member of NOSH, which is a division of the North Shore Soup Kitchen. Every Thursday, I deliver meals to 18 people in the landing area, people who are in need. And I will tell you, of course, helped at the high school during the pandemic. And the need is very great here in the city of Glen Cove, very great, and it is heartbreaking. I will say, thankfully, I'm down to 16 people we're delivering at this point. But the challenge is this: we have got wonderful organizations, private, we have partnerships that are working, but what we have to do is reach out to the county and reach out to other funding sources that we can help bolster the work where volunteers and our churches and our nonprofits are working to serve the people of Glen Cove and the full spectrum of the people of Glen Cove, including our homeless. But we have to get them involved to help us. So we've got to look to the county. We have to look to other funding sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watson?
As someone that just had a meeting last Thursday regarding this very issue, one of the things that people forget is that the homelessness population is just that. It's a population. It's more than just food, and it's more than just shelter. It actually has to do with underlying issues of trauma, underlying issues of mental health. And as far as funding, before we even go into funding, I think we need to pull together, collaborate in-house in Glen Cove. There are very other organizations, members of other organizations that want to do something. We need to go to the actual people that are doing the work and kind of support them and find long-term solutions for those that are homeless, not just short-term and just providing homeless shelters, but long-term housing and possible drug and alcohol and mental health treatment to sustain those people in those housings for long term.
Thank you. Mr. Capobianco.
I agree with what a lot of Gaitley Stevenson-Mathews said. However, I would approach it in a slightly different fashion. I think it's imperative that we get Northwell involved. We have a major hospital, and have the people treated, have them evaluated, see what type of mental issues that they have. I think a lot of homeless has to do with people who have mental issues. And by invoking our world-class hospital, we could get the help that people need. In addition, I think that job creation is important. And I think that we need to work on creating jobs in Glen Cove. If we get these people jobs, and hopefully we can get them out of the homeless cycle. And I think it's very important that we give them whatever assistance we can, whether it be mental counseling, whether it be job creation, because I think we can serve a vital role in bringing them back to society.
Thank you. Ms. Fugazy Scagliola?
So I do check in on our homeless population pretty frequently with the police, given that I have an office in the downtown. There was the men's shelter at the Presbyterian Church. I'm kind of regularly up on it. And I will say that the population has decreased since COVID. That said, we do have to care for our homeless. If you are from Glen Cove, I want to be sure we are helping you. But Glen Cove does do its fair share. So we have to be careful about how we use our resources and make sure we're taking care of our people. That's one issue. The other issue, food instability, is a different issue, and that's real, and I worry about that, and I worry about that for families and children. That's why I did raise money for NOSH and the food pantry, and I also do deliveries, and I'm constantly donating through our school district to make sure that I'm helping with that problem. But it is real, and we have to make sure that we stay on top of it, and we give some real thought and resources to it.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg?
I would agree with Mr. Watson in regard to the fact that the homelessness stems from so many other issues, mental health, a loss of a job, whatever event happened in their lives. But I think that funding is a necessary part of that. And I would look and use the role as a civil servant to reach out and to get help from the county, from the state, from the federal government for funding to actually do what Mr. Capobianco is suggesting, is to have a partnership with the local hospitals, maybe create a clinic. But any of those ideas will cost money. And I think personally, I think that it begins there. Thankfully, the homeless population, it may be decreasing, but it will always be there. And so being proactive is probably the best bet. And I would love to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins?
Yeah, a lot of what I wanted to say has been already spoken about. But again, it is so important to make sure that we have active, not only job creation, training. We have people down there holding workshops, whether people choose to use it or not. It's so important. We have active social workers there that are either, treating for mental illness, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, whatever else may be, whatever kind of counseling they may be in need of. And as Mr. Capobianco had stated, tapping into our resource right here in Glen Cove is Northwell, one of the biggest facilities on Long Island, would be an amazing opportunity for us to do that and maybe partner with some federal grants or loans for that to really help the community. And again, food insecurity is just so important. I know we have so many amazing local places around here, and people have really donated their hearts out. I know as part of the car parades, we included a food donation if somebody was requesting a car parade as well, and we donated to the local parentries. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante?
This is an issue that is truly heart-wrenching because people often are embarrassed to ask for help or don't know where to go. And right now there is no fund line in the Glen Cove budget for the homeless. And we do depend on people who volunteer their time and donate their own resources. In particular, my husband and I, we founded and primarily sourced aid to not only families in need, but to also provide to major food pantries via our Do Good to Feel Good program. And this isn't anything that's new to us. I also offer free skin cancer screenings for people who can't afford insurance or the co-pays. We've always helped at the men's shelter, but we don't have any shelters for women or for family. We need to help people with job searches, mental health and drug and alcohol issues. And a lot of the programs that were closed during COVID are coming back, but I promise you that I will always support people in need. That will always be a priority for me and my family. And I teach my children by example, and I hope that you all will do that too.
Thank you. And I thank you all for your amazing patience with this and for your, it was not easy. And now it's time to have your closing statements, which are going to be done alphabetically. And that will start again with Mr. Capobianco.
I would again like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I had done this in 2019 live, and I think it's informative, and I hope the electorate thinks it's informative. Having been on the council for 5 years and as a practicing attorney with an accounting background, I believe I have the necessary attributes to handle the position. I know how to analyze and dissect a budget. I know how to interpret our building and city codes as well as legal documents. I assure you I will be a guardian of your hard-earned tax dollars. As a councilman, I champion the audit of retirees receiving health insurance from the city, which uncovered hundreds of thousands of dollars of insurance premiums wrongfully paid by our city. It has been a privilege to represent the city of Glen Cove, and I look forward to 2 more years and moving the city forward with fiscal responsibility. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, fellow candidates.
Thank you. Ms. Fugazy Scagliola.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for setting this up once again and for everybody for joining. I look forward to serving Glen Cove for a second term. I'm always looking for creative solutions to make things happen here in Glen Cove. I learned a lot during my first term as council, and it's an experience that will help me move forward. Additionally, my background as a financial writer will continue to serve me well. I cover private equity, M&A transactions, bonds, and mortgages for just about my entire career. As a writer, I'm trained to see things objectively, giving me a fair and balanced perspective. What's more, I'm well-versed in financial matters. Additionally, I'm on the board of the Business Improvement District and has rented an office in the heart of downtown for more than 12 years. I see the issue the downtown faces every single day. Lastly, I'm extremely active in the Glen Cove Public Schools. As I mentioned, I have 4 children in the school district. I'm president of the Glen Cove Education Foundation, and with the help of some amazing like-minded community members this year, we raised money to put in touchless water systems and air filtration systems to help keep COVID spread at a minimum. I hope you glean some insights into the person I am and my abilities to help the city thrive. As a community, we deserve officials that want the best for the city without any other motivations. I simply want Glen Cove to be the best place it can be. I will work hard for Glen Covers and continue to work to make Glen Cove a place that we are all proud to call home. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to the moderators, to all the candidates. Really appreciate this experience. One of my best attributes is to guys understand what someone is asking of me, what needs to be done, and to lead by example. As a civil servant and as a legislator, as well as someone who wants to make sure I'm in the community, I promise the constituents that I will do so. I have learned a lot from this meeting alone, this forum alone tonight, and I would love to be able to put that into effect as a city councilman. I have a great pride, my children attending the Glen Cove School District. We haven't really touched about that much tonight regarding the school district and the city working hand in hand if possible, but these are all aspects that I would like to address if elected to city council. I'm very proud of Glen Cove. I'm proud that my family lives here, and I really want to do whatever I can to be a part of its future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and the panelists as well. I am a make it happen person. Anyone that knows me knows that I am enthusiastic, I'm passionate, and I am a roll your sleeves up kind of person. It's not about whose job is what, it's just let's make it happen and let's do it for the benefit of everybody and the benefit of the community. One of the things that I really pride myself is on working together listening to people. I have a bipartisan mindset. I have friends on both sides of the party and friends here at this that we're running against here. I do believe that transparency and communication are key. And as a marketing professional, to me, that needs some improvement here out to our community here, and make sure that, you know, we not only have a pause of development, and I disagree with Mr. Stevenson-Mathews here. He said he didn't want to have to shut it down on development. At this point, we need a pause. We don't know what the effect is on traffic, on our school system, on our police system, on our water, on our fire department. We need a pause, and we need to take a pause and look at that for about a year, maybe 2 years, who knows, and evaluate what the long-term effects are of that. And with that, I will bring my 25 years of financial experience to manage this city like a budget and look at the revenues, expenses, and look at all the possible outcomes of things. I have a passion for it. I know our city. I have 3 kids here. I'm very, very involved in our school system, and I would be proud to be your next city councilwoman. So thank you for having me, and thank you again for tuning in to everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Lupenko-Ferrante.
Thank you all, including the League of Women's Voters, for allowing me to show my loyalty to the future success of Glen Cove's residents, its environment, its businesses, and its finances. I've been serving Glen Cove for over 25 years, and I've continued and expanded my activities while I've been a councilwoman, and I will continue to serve you in the future. But I want to be reelected to continue my work in the legislative aspects in making beautiful Glen Cove an even more successful and safer city. I want the opportunity to follow through on the 5-year capital improvement plan to make visible improvements, bring success to our local businesses, lower our debt service, and strengthen our finances and infrastructure. I'm driven by being able to be such a positive influence in so many people's lives, and my medical and scientific background puts me in a unique position to promote safety and good environmental practices to so many discussions. I will listen to you, respond to you, and be respectful to you. I choose kindness, but I can also make the tough decisions that will move Glen Cove forward. I have so much experience in Glen Cove service organizations and business associations to have a pulse on what we need to accomplish. Glen Cove is open for business, and by voting to re-elect me, Mayor Tenke, and Team Tenke, you can be confident that your quality of life, environmental and financial interests will always be fought for. Thank you and good night, and be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Maccarone.
Yes, I thank everyone for their participation in this informative event. At the end of the day, it is about our citizens, and this forum will hopefully provide them with the information they need to make the choice at the end of the day. As a lifelong resident and homeowner in the city of Glen Cove, I've been active in many civic organizations, youth organizations throughout my lifetime, as well as being a former city councilman. I think that I have a unique perspective and ability to identify the issues that our city currently faces. I believe as a result, my professional background, strong will, and love for my city, I possess the necessary skills to address those issues and help our city move forward. As an independent thinker who's never afraid to speak his mind, I believe that the ability to work with others will never be an issue, and it hasn't been in the past. I take pride on my strong record while serving as a city councilman in advocating for diverse communities or diverse individuals within our community, inclusion of those diverse communities. I have a strong record against overdevelopment, fiscal responsibility, and the need to get the job done. So I thank everyone for their participation. I thank you for your consideration, and I hope to have your support come this November. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancusi.
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone involved in putting this production together. I know how hard it is to get something like this up and running, and I believe it was very successful. In my closing statements, I'd like to circle back to something that Danielle had mentioned, and she talked about the city re-looking at their codes and ordinances in an attempt to update them. The world is changing, everybody knows that, and some of these old codes and ordinances need to change with them. My fear is that there has to be a very wide perspective on the rewriting of these codes and ordinances, meaning that the city of Glen Cove is a multi-headed beast. So we have the Glen Cove City Council and the mayor who generally run the city, but you also have the planning board, you have the zoning board of appeals, the IDA. These agencies are mostly appointed people who are not accountable to the citizens of Glen Cove. So whenever you're rewriting anything, it's very important that you have an understanding of what their purpose is, what they understand their purpose to be. I bet you if you ask a lot of these appointed people, they all have different ideas of what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I am in no way suggesting that the city council should be leaning on these people and exercising undue influence. But if there is a master plan for the city, it comes from the city council, and it should be in place, and it should be shared with all the other agencies. So I'm asking everyone that's listening to support Team Panzenbeck. We will bring that kind of leadership to Glen Cove City Hall. Please support us on November 2nd. Thank you.
Ms. Peebles.
I am not a fan of little cute slogans and superficial campaign promises. The facts are simple. The city finances are being mismanaged, and this is an obvious concern to taxpayers. It impacts literally every aspect of running a government and our quality of life. It's about leadership. That is why experience and success matter, and no one has more experience or success in government than I do. From helping create the city's first surplus in 30 years, to receiving 2 credit upgrades from Moody's, and from making the redevelopment long stalled of our waterfront and downtown an actual reality, which everyone is already enjoying. I want to win a seat on city council. I am last on the ballot, so remember to save the best for last and vote for Better Glen Cove by voting for me, Barbara Bella-Peebles. Glen Cove deserves strong leadership at City Hall. Thank you.
Mr. Perrone.
Well, thank you, League of Women Voters, again for this forum. And I want to thank all of the candidates as well. There's a lot of great minds here. And you know what? Just like in any team, we can always achieve more together. I've had a very wonderful 2 years, or almost 2 years, and I've seen so much change in our city. I really believe in what we've done and what we can do. We've made necessary administrative changes. We've made necessary visible changes, and we've done things in a 2-year span that no other council has been able to achieve. We had to deal with COVID. No council had to deal with that. We had to reopen the city. No council had to deal with that. We have done all of this, and we all did it together. Our city has a lot of issues and a lot of problems, and one by one, this administration together has conquered one by one each one of them. We promised finances, we promised infrastructure, we promised quality of life. We hit all the bullet points. It takes a lot of time to write a ship the length and size of Glen Cove, and we are writing that ship. We are pointing in the right direction. We have developed a 5-year plan. We've developed the negotiated contracts with both of our unions. We're bringing in Glen Cove back. We're bringing Glen Cove back to the grandeur of repairing everything. You want it? The golf course is going to be worked on this year. It's long overdue. Long overdue. They got their first golf carts in how many years? We're trying to do the right thing, and we are doing the right thing. I ask for your support on Election Day. I ask for your support for myself, for our team, and for Mayor Tanke to keep allowing us to move Glen Cove in the direction we're going. I thank you all, and I wish you all well.
Ms. Silverman.
As I said earlier tonight, the reason why I initially ran for office is to bring transparency, accountability, and equal treatment and access for all to City Hall. I have had the privilege to serve as your city council member for 2 terms now. I take this responsibility to serve very seriously. When issues come before me, I do thorough research, due diligence, and ask questions, sometimes a lot of questions, in order to make informed and fact-based decisions. Through this methodical evaluation, I always try to do what I believe is the best for the most people. My commitment to the residents of Glen Cove has been recognized by the following organizations who have endorsed my candidacy. I'm proud to announce that I've been endorsed by the National Women's Political Caucus, Eleanor's Legacy, Long Island Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, the Laborers International Union of North America, Laborers Local 66, and Glen Cove's own PBA. I'm also extremely proud to let you know that New York State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli has consistently supported my candidacy throughout the years. Tonight, we've discussed various topics from budgeting to the IDA to infrastructure and development. If you have any questions that have not been answered tonight, please feel free to reach out to me through my website at reelectmarshasilverman.com. I can better represent you when I hear directly from you. I'm asking for your support on November 2nd to allow me to continue building upon the good governance practices that make Glen Cove a more equitable, just, and fair city for all. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters, to my fellow participants, and all of the viewers who submitted questions tonight. Good night. God bless the city of Glen Cove and all of our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson-Mathews?
Thank you so much. Just a big thank you to everyone who participated and everyone who logged on to watch this presentation. And a special thank you to the League of Women Voters. You know, when I was a freshman in college, it was the League of Women Voters who made sure that I got registered to vote. And the person who registered me is still a good friend. So major shout out to the League of Women Voters. You know, especially at this time of year when we're in the election cycle, I often think of my grandmother. She was 92 years old. As a teenager, I would drive her to the polls, and she was one of those who always wanted to vote herself. She wanted to vote in person. And I was so impressed with that as a kid. But what I realized later is that because she was born in 1888, she was 32 years old before she got the right to vote. She was an accountant for the railroad. She was a smart and savvy businesswoman, and our government didn't allow her to vote until she was 32 years old. You can make a difference, and you can make a difference with your vote. I so encourage you to make sure you vote. We have critical issues facing our city. My commitment to the people of Glen Cove is that I will continue to always put the best interest of the tax-paying public ahead of my own. That is my promise to you. Where I feel elected officials often make mistakes is that they act on assumptions. I am a firm believer that if you have to know the people to represent the people. I am honored to be involved in the city in so many ways. In addition to my work as a councilman, I am honored to serve as a liaison to the Senior Center, to serve on the Memorial Day Parade Committee, and to have been a former member of the CDA. In the community, I'm a founder member of NOSH, a program of the North Shore Soup Kitchen. I serve as an elder at my church. I'm an associate member at Calvary AME Church. Additionally, I'm proud to serve on the advisory committee for the Morgan Park Summer Music Festival, to be a trustee of the North Shore Historical Museum, to be an active member of both the City of Glen Cove Chamber and the Hispanic Chamber, and to be a member of the Sons of Italy. I come from a military family, and I appreciate what our veterans bring to our community. I was honored to serve as a board member of Heroes Among Us. At the end of the day, it is important to serve the people of Glen Cove. I promise to do that.
Thank you.
I need your vote. Please vote for me. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Watson? Please unmute.
You're muted.
I'm sorry about that. I want to first thank the League of Women Voters who put this forum together tonight, and also to the candidates that took part in this forum. First, I want to say there are 9 candidates that have been already council people, have gone for re-election, or have been part of city government that are on the major party line on the ballot. Some of us, if not most of us, we have records or supported administrations that have made decisions in the city that we can actually look as history that we can go back and look at. I myself have known what it's like to be an individual to stand against or to vote against administration that made some decisions I didn't believe in. Doesn't necessarily mean that I was always correct, but I voted what I stood for. I campaigned on it. And what I did was, before I left office, I did a self-check to make sure that I did say what I was going to do. A lot of times people run for office and they say they're going to do something. They get into office and then all of a sudden they change who they say they were going to be. I have a record that shows whatever I said I was not going to vote for or vote against, I did it. And I campaign on that, and I wear that with a badge of honor, okay? We talk about the city being diverse, but also I would like the city to be inclusive. I'm probably the first, if not the only African-American that's been in part of city government on the council, probably within the last 10, 15, 20 years. I wear that with a badge of honor, because we always hear mayors talk about diversity, but what about being inclusive? Everyone should have some type of voice or seat at the table. I thank everyone tonight. God bless Glen Cove. God bless all the candidates, and good luck on the last couple of weeks. Thank you.
I want to thank all of the candidates. You were a delight. Thank you for making my job easier. The public and the league appreciate your willingness to answer these questions from the voters in this less than perfect medium that we've learned to adjust to. Although live forums are wonderful, and I've moderated quite a number of them, the use of Zoom does allow us to bring you in person to so many more voters. And those who were not able to attend tonight will be able to see it on YouTube. And I think that's really terrific. And so a lot of people are going to get a chance to see you and to hear what you have to say. I also want to remind everyone that this year's ballot has two sides. One side has the candidates, the other has 5 proposed amendments to the New York State Constitution. Please remember to turn over your ballot. Do both sides. For information on the proposals, as was mentioned before, and for information actually on the proposals and the candidates, visit the League's voter service website, vote411.org. The local website, the League of Women Voters of Washington-Manhasset, also offers voters guides in multiple languages with pros and cons for each proposal. You can get there by clicking on the logo at the upper right of the YouTube channel window. And as Regina mentioned before, League is not for women only. Men have been welcome as members since 1970. We're open to one and all. Why not consider becoming a member, making a contribution to assist with League's work, or both? And I believe the candidates are all muted now. So if you want to wave goodbye, before your cameras are turned off, which will be momentarily, I believe. I want to thank all the viewers who've taken the time to learn more about the candidates for whom you'll be voting. Educated voters are the key to making our democracy work. A recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset YouTube channel within 24 hours. This forum is now ended.
And start video and just say,